I learned recently that 95% of Black small business owners are in the same seat, in the same boat that I am, which is that 95% of us are we employ ourselves and that's it. We don't have 3, 5, 7, 10 employees, right? So
Right.
it already like knocks us out of applying for that loan.
This right here forever. And there will be no surrender. Now allow me to reintroduce myself. They call me.
Thank you for joining me again, Naima.
You are welcome. Happy to be here.
We've had Naima Beckles. This is a Zoomcast, Make It Your Business. And I've had the pleasure of speaking with Naima Beckles on 2 occasions. And while I think we're on day 63 of sheltering in place here in New York.
Yeah.
I want to do a human check-in first just to see how you're doing on day 6. I wasn't keeping track.
I saw someone post like a number in the 70s recently. So I don't know when they were.
Since February.
March. I remember.
March.
So my start date was when the schools closed, or the Friday before the schools closed, which was Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what it is from there. But I mean, as far as like a human check-in on how we're doing, like deep breath, like we're doing all right. Like everyone here is healthy and strong and fine, you know. It's hard.
Yeah.
And like some words that I've been living by right now have been hard times require furious dancing. And those are not my words, those are Alice Walker's. But dance parties have become really important to our sanity in our house.
Oh, that's amazing. No, that's great. I think the blessing is not quarantining alone or not sheltering in place alone. And that's kind of the saving grace, so to speak, when you're doing this.
Yeah.
One of the things I've been happy to see is that For Your Birth has been keeping busy and during this pandemic. And for those of you who may not have had a chance to check out Naima's foryourbirth.com, her business is amazing and tries to stay as up to date as possible on what pregnant women and their families need to know and what they need to expect while expecting. So since I do follow you, I've seen that you've been keeping up your community classes live on Zoom, which is great. And I'd love for you to talk more about those and where people can sign up for them.
Yeah. Well, right now our community classes are just breastfeeding and infant care classes. And this is one of the classes that we've led for a long time. And when people join in, they'll get 2 hours with an instructor who will lead them through primarily breastfeeding basics and also infant care. And then we follow up in an email with lots of other resources, including videos online that we think are really good and helpful, especially videos that teach new parents a proper latch when breastfeeding, which is usually the hardest thing. We also have videos that we like, that we just pull from the internet that we think are good, because we don't want our clients to kind of go down that rabbit hole of just looking at everything on the internet. We want to create a really kind of curated experience. So we have what we think are the best videos in how to swaddle your baby, how to diaper your baby, how to soothe your baby. We'll just send that to you after you take the class. And the class is a nice place to be in community too, right? So it's a good place to see other people, talk to people, connect to folks who are doing the same thing that you're doing right now. And because times are confusing and hard, these classes are offered on a sliding scale. So the normal fee is much lower than it would be in person, and then our sliding fee is there to accommodate all incomes. And we really don't want anyone to feel like they can't take the class. So if anyone reaches out and wants to take it and doesn't have the resources to pay for it now, I'll slide whoever into the class.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great to hear. And they can find it on foryourbirth.com, all information of where they can sign up?
Yep, totally, yeah.
Perfect. And you also have an event coming up, and I'm excited I actually want to check it out myself, even though I have nothing to personally, but who knows what I can gain from it, right? Yeah. You actually already have a partnership with City Births.
That's right.
And I know that we talked about that on the podcast we did in February, and we talked about your partnership with them, and you're doing an event on May 24th, correct? At 10:30 in the morning. So if you could please let me know a little bit, let the audience know a little bit more about that event, and also how they can find out the information for that.
Yeah, so we've had a long-standing relationship with City Births, and what we've done is they're hosting a online information about what to expect when you are delivering in a hospital during this COVID period that we're in. And we have put together a panel discussion that will include a midwife here in the city that delivers in a hospital, a labor and delivery nurse, and myself, a doula and childbirth educator, who will talk about our experiences so far with clients, what the midwives and the LD nurses are seeing in their hospitals, and what patients who are going to be entering hospitals to give birth can expect and prepare for. So it's a real, like, from the front lines conversation.
Wow, that's awesome. And tell me a little bit more about City Births, because I'm not familiar with them. So for people that may not know about them, as I know more about you, could you tell me a little bit more about City Births?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, City Births is a company that's been around for maybe 7 or 8 years here in New York City that has 3 studio locations where childbirth classes are offered, breastfeeding classes are offered, breastfeeding support groups are given, and infant CPR classes are taught. And thousands of people through the years have come through those studios to take classes. I've been a teacher with City Births for as long as I've been teaching childbirth education, so about 6 or 7 years right now. And I was asked by their owner a couple of years ago to manage one of their locations. So For Your Birth is the in-house doula agency for City Births, and I manage one of their offices.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome, Naima. I love that. And one other thing I wanted to, before I get into something else that you're doing personally, which I'm excited about, what I wanted to ask you about in general is I spoke with a couple of Harlem businesses here. Of course, Harlem business only received about 1% of the PPP loans and the SBA forgiveness loans, and which is awful, but not surprising, unfortunately, but one of the things that, because a small business to me is 10 employees or less. I mean, right. 20 or less, honestly. I don't even think you're in the range of getting close to mid-level till you're 50 and up. And because to me, you know what I mean? Or you actually have an accounting department and that means you have more than one person in there doing your accounting. And that's when I feel you're no longer a small business. But to know that there could be small businesses that are not opening their doors again is just so distressing. And hearing the types of businesses, sports organizations, major food chains that are receiving $4.6 million and up, and a local business here, I saw only received about $1,800 for paycheck protection, which, I mean, let's just be honest, any rent in Harlem, that doesn't even cover it.
That's not going to cover anyone's rent in Harlem.
I mean, and so I wanted to ask you, did you actually have, For Your Birth, applied for any loans? And if so, what has your experience been? And also, what kinds of things would you like to see from the local government and from the federal government in terms of childbirth care and childbirth education as we move forward coming out of this pandemic?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my own experience with applying for the loan, first, that I didn't qualify for the paycheck protection loan because you need to have a certain number of employees, and all of the people who work with me are independent contractors. I'm actually a small business with an employee of one. I'm the sole proprietor of this. And I learned recently that 95% of Black small business owners are in the same seat, in the same boat that I am, which is that 95% of us we employ ourselves and that's it. We don't have 3, 5, 7, 10 employees, right? So it already knocks us out of applying for that loan. There is another loan though, it's the disaster relief loan or something that I do qualify 4 on paper. I don't even remember when I applied for that. Maybe it was 4 or 5 weeks ago. And every now and then, like, I check my spam, my email, and it's like nothing. I don't even know, like, if it was received or what. So, yeah, I had a conversation with my accountant who advised me to apply for that one. She was like, unfortunately, it doesn't look like you qualify for this, so apply for that. And I did, but I haven't heard anything. So my expectations are super low. Like, I don't really expect to be noticed at all or get anything outside of what might come to me by way of like the smaller communities. So like the real grassroots community here in Harlem, where people are just like chipping in to support each other. Like, I expect, like, if there's going to be any support, it's going to be from the people on the ground, like the Harlem Business Alliance and all these other places that are really trying to look out for us and trying to support.
Yeah. I guess for me, one of the things I like to do too, that's what's so important about Make It Your Business, is to open people's eyes to things that, first of all, for them to understand what small business is, because I don't think they do. And then on top of it, the perils of maintaining a small business. And the most important part is, I feel like with every small business, it's so uncomfortable when we go into these, we want to meet people, we want to mingle, we want to get to know more people, but we don't want to feel like we always have our hand out. But at the same time, you do want to have an elevator pitch available, because small businesses have needs. Because how can they grow if they don't, have the support of their community? And I feel like one of the only good things about this pandemic, if we can even call it that, is it shined lights on things that we were aware of for so long: the disparities in communities of color in terms of healthcare, socioeconomic, being underserved. But in terms of small business, I mean, my hopes are very, hope is all you have, right? But I'm really hoping that that's something that people are going to fight for more coming out, because it really did expose how there's no check and balance system of who was receiving this money and who wasn't. Totally. So, and who needed it and who didn't, right? So if you had a chance to speak to local government or federal government, what would you like to say to them about companies like yourself in terms of needs when it comes to not just a pandemic, but just receiving that kind of support when you are giving back? You are a business that gives back consistently to people, and emotional and mental support, which is something that is even more important in this time.
Yeah, I would say to them, like they ought to be the first ones lining up to engage our services, to be hiring us, right? So they should be looking out for services like mine, and also services that come from other small businesses that are really service oriented. We should be getting the contracts to provide support to other government employees. Start there, and then if we had them as our audience, then we could just build from there, right? So if all those people told someone else who's in the private sector, then that would just lift us all up.
Right.
But it goes the other way, right? Like, private sector has the most money, raises the most capital, and they have like the broadest reach.
Exactly, which is fascinating how that happens, right?
Right. Well, it's capitalism. So
It's a double-edged sword. It can be good when it works. It can be really bad when it doesn't. Are you a part of one of these organizations or GoFundMes that within this community that's receiving some, so people can support you, that will see this and hear this Simcast?
I'm not. No, I haven't been like really actively trying to raise money. Like, fortunately, I don't have a physical space that I need to maintain. So my business doesn't operate that way right now. So I don't have huge overhead. But, like everyone else, like, still just bleeding any reserve that was there. Like, all that's just,
I really do hope that they do better with getting small businesses more money. I mean, it's disheartening to go past the mom and pop shops and knowing that I need to use a coffee maker instead of buying. I just feel like, oh, let me do it because they're not, they're opening their doors for limited hours to make money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A friend of mine told me that his restaurant that had 37 employees got passed up by that loan because like that small business is still like not the businesses that they're looking at. Like it's incredible that.
The thing about it is, it's so funny about what you mean about saying about that is that those people still aren't full time, are they? Like nobody I don't think a lot of businesses in Harlem have full time employees.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They basically they rotate. They work there. They're an actor on Broadway. It's like
teaching yoga classes. Yeah.
I'm like, really? So how do you even, because you have to justify paying full-time employees for what, like 8 weeks? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah.
When I dissected how those loans were working, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. But the reason I'm not in politics, it's like.
Or maybe you should be.
Oh my gosh. I just hate to see the little guy get the wrong end of the stick, and that always seems to happen. And I've always been that way because I argued in Macy's one time. My brother was like, why are we they had this where you go and pick up now from online orders, and this was years ago. There's no signs. It took me forever, the Herald Square Macy's. So by the time I found it, I said to the man running the desk, I said, I know you're not in charge, but I really would like to talk to someone. My brother's like, are you serious? And I was like, how would somebody be able to know this if they came to pick it up? And this is just to help your business out. Like they might just get frustrated and cancel the order. And the guy was like, ma'am, you're really like, I said, because I hate to see the little guy get it all the time. And everybody in line started laughing like, why is she passionately fighting about this one thing? But it did bother me because it's like, we walked around there for like 45 minutes. And I'm like, New York, you just don't have that kind of time either.
No.
So, but yes, no, parts of the time I do, but I don't have the stomach for it. But the last time we spoke, we talked about doulas being trauma-informed care, which I love that phrase. And honestly, that's kind of how I think of you now as trauma-informed care, because you're preventing trauma by informing people and caring for them, which I think is amazing. And you're putting that into practice in another way now too, during this pandemic, which I think is amazing. You just finished training with the Institute for the Study of Birth, Breath, and Death, where you'll be doing grieving and loss counseling, virtually one-on-one. So I'd love for you to talk to me about that training and where you'll be offering the grief one-on-one consultations and where people can find you for that.
Yeah. So the training, I completed it. I guess it was over a month or so. It took about a month to do. It just really involved a lot of reading and a few classes and some practicing with partners and like having conversations with the trainer. And yeah, it's being offered. I'll be working in conjunction with the institute that you mentioned. So their website has ways to be in touch with us. And then I haven't yet, but I'll build out a way for people to come to my business and see that it's there as well. And the one-on-one support is intended to be virtual. It could be over a phone call or a video call. And it's really just to hold space for people as they are grieving losses. And those losses can be losses of other people in your lives, but it can also be losses of lifestyles, losses of like your work or your business or your freedom, or just like all these things that we're all grieving right now. We don't all have like the full language or even give ourselves permission to say like, I'm grieving not being able to, see my friends. Like it's really, really hard to live in this New York City apartment alone on my birthday, right? So all those things, we can hold space for. We can have people tell us their stories and give them validation that, yeah, that's a hard thing. And then also certainly like in this pandemic, people are grieving the loss of lives from afar. right? So we're not able to be with people who are dying or gather in person after a death, which is just so difficult and so hard. So people can simultaneously be grieving like the physical loss of a person, but also grieving like not having the space to express that loss, not having the companionship of friends and family to fully like say goodbye.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And I like that how you also spoke about loss in every other aspect, because I think when we're talking about the pandemic, we just think right away to how people really can't be with their loved ones as they're passing from COVID-19. And because our numbers are so high, that's what we think, oh, okay, those are the losses that you mean. But you're right. I mean, I think I just put it into sometimes when I sign up for these classes, the virtual classes that you and I've even been fortunate to take together, and you'll even see instructors saying they haven't seen friends in a while, they haven't seen families in a while. So having someone that you can talk to that is soothing, that can be compassionate and giving of something so precious as their time means so much to people. And I think it's great that you're doing it, Naima.
Thank you.
You're an amazing person to do that for, because it's so soothing every time I talk to you. It's like, so I think, please, everyone, will they be able to find you on the Institute site? Is that where they'll be?
Yeah, it just went live this week. So
perfect. Yay. So everyone, please connect with Naima on the Institute for the Study of Birth, Breath, and Death. And I talked to you earlier in email about the question about the changes as to pregnant women as things start to reopen. I want to come back to that when another time that we speak, because you're right, these things keep changing, and I mean, there's like a new symptom every week, so I'm just kind of, and now this whole thing with children. I mean, I'm just trying to keep up with what we should be aware of and what we shouldn't be. So that is one of the reasons I want to stay in contact, because I know you stay reading and stay up on the literature in terms of what's happening with women who are expecting and women who are just giving birth. So that is something I want to talk to you about. And I know you guys might even have more information. That's another reason they should tune into your event on May 24th with City Birth, because that's another 2 weeks where there might be some more information that you all can share at that time. So please, everyone, also tune into that event if you have any questions about what it is to be expecting in this time period, because you're going to have Naima and so many other experts too there to help you navigate this time. And is there anything else you'd like the audience to know that's coming up, that's going on?
I feel so close to your audience. Like people know me really well now.
I love it. We've been actually putting some clips on. I don't know if it's shame on me if we're not connected on LinkedIn. So I have to connect with you on LinkedIn, because I've been putting clips up on LinkedIn from our.
Oh, good. Good. That'll be a good push for me to update stuff on LinkedIn for myself.
We're going to move into other platforms too, but we really wanted to kind of, because it's such a professional site, people can see it and connect, and then go from there to your site and see what you all have to offer. So I hope that also people will become more educated through that as well, because you have so much useful information that people can really need. And
thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's so good to see you in the flesh. I'm always seeing you. Now, even I work out together sometimes. We're all seeing each other on a mat. So now we actually get to have.
Right. In a little tiny box.
I know. Like a little small box. So I am glad to actually see you full size.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us again. Oh, it's a pleasure. Love to you and the family.
Same here. Thank you so much, Shayla. Bye.
Bye, Naima.
Bye.